Hello and welcome to Optimizing Your Member Recruitment Plan, a webinar for Vista sponsors and leaders. Despite differences in their roles, sponsors, supervisors, and leaders are all involved in planning for member recruitment. This webinar offers strategies for planning to recruit new Vista members. I'm Eric Powell, and I'll be your host today. I'm a training specialist with the Vista program at AmeriCorps headquarters in Washington, D.C. I'm pleased to introduce you to our presenter, Kathy Lenz with Development Plus Incorporated. Kathy has been working with AmeriCorps sites for over 26 years, as well as a consultant for various federal agencies working on health and human services with U.S. nonprofit partners, addressing the needs of the most vulnerable sectors of our communities. She previously served as a trainer for Peace Corps in Guatemala, and Kathy comes with knowledge of and experience in developing and implementing plans, especially given her tenure being connected to AmeriCorps. Kathy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Eric. I am so looking forward to sharing some of my experiences around member recruitment, and especially hearing from all of you, our sponsors and leaders, during our engagement activities. During our time together, we'll cover quite a bit of information that'll help you plan for recruiting new members. First, we'll define the roles of member recruitment. Next, we'll discuss creating and adapting a recruitment plan. And last, we'll describe how to involve others in various stages of a recruitment plan. We'll finish our time together with a Q&A session, and you'll be able to leave with some tools that you can use back in your Vista sites. We'll have a lot of helpful information to cover, so let's get started. I first want to start with the Vista recruitment process. Let's take just a quick review. If you don't already have a recruitment plan, or you want more details on how to create one, check out our e-learning course on the Vista campus. It's called Creating Your Vista Member Recruitment Plan. Now let's take a look at the process. Step one of the very place that we start for the recruitment process is plan. Let's be honest, it can be tempting to dive headfirst into posting opportunities online and reaching out to supporters for your next big event. However, you should take some time to walk through the core steps of building your volunteer recruitment strategy, just to make sure you aren't skipping anything. We're going to spend the bulk of our time today talking about the planning process. Step two is market. In this step, you'll advertise and publicize the open positions. You may advertise your project on social media, create promotional materials like flyers or brochures, and track marketing efforts in a database. Step three is screen. In this step, you'll get to identify qualified applicants who are a good fit for your project. You will likely review resumes, acknowledge applications as they are received, provide additional information to applicants about the role, check and all the references, complete background checks, and conduct initial screenings. Step four is interview. In this step, you'll need to develop and review questions for applicants, coordinate schedules among other interviewers and the applicant, and establish a way to evaluate applicant interview responses. Oftentimes, you might use a rubric. Interviews may be held either face-to-face or what we describe as in-person, by phone, or virtually using platforms like Zoom or Microsoft Teams. Leaders are likely reviewing applications, recommending applicants for interviews, scheduling applicant interviews, participating in interviews, and sharing their observations on applicants with the supervisor. Next is step five, which is the select. Sponsors will select the right applicants and extend offers to the selected applicants. Keep in mind, you are extending an offer, but not a guarantee of a position. The final official approval of applicants comes from the AmeriCorps portfolio manager. That's why we are saying you are quote unquote selecting applicants and not hiring or improving. Vista leaders often recheck the eligibility of top applicants and provide their input to the supervisors. The supervisor will ultimately handle the official selection, including making the offer and completing the recommendation form and e-grants after the applicant accepts. In this phase, you can also expect to communicate to those who were not selected and outline what they can expect going forward. Supervisors also need to notify applicants who were not selected. Leaders are not permitted to be the ones who decide which VISTA applicants are chosen to serve. Like creating positions, that is the responsibility of the supervisor. Now, our final step is number 6, which is engage. You'll stay in contact with the selected applicants and provide them with the information they need before they actually start service. What kind of things do they need to know? How, you have to think about navigating the time gaps between being offered a position and starting service, and engaging with them after starting to build on the applicant's feelings of community and value. So now that we have a context for the full recruitment process, let's look at the first component of the planning process, discussing the roles in member recruitment. It is part of the foundation needed to build and execute a member recruitment plan.
And before we get into the specifics of roles, I'm going to ask a question that I think it's worth asking a second time, since we may have different responses than we did before. So the question we're asking is, how strong do you feel that your member recruitment plan is? And you can respond on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not very strong at all, 10 being extremely strong, and feel free to add any other comments you'd like. I do want to make a quick note that we're not asking how effective your recruitment is, but how strong you feel your recruitment plan is. This, of course, starts with the assumption that you have some form of an official plan and that you're consistently working to strengthen it. We're using the chat for this question, so you can go ahead and type your response, and we'll take a look at them in just a moment. Okay, so I'm still seeing quite a few responses coming in, but Kathy, so far it looks like on average, most people seem to be around the middle. It looks like a lot of 4s, 5s, and 6s, people thinking their recruitment plan is relatively solid, but can use some more tweaks and updates and enhancements. So I'm excited that we'll continue with this, but I want to ask you, Kathy, are there any other comments or overall themes you're seeing based on the responses?
I think some of the wonderful things I'm seeing is people are like, I need some tips. I know that there's some things we can improve on. I'm looking forward to just really hearing some more ideas of how we can strengthen this as we go forward. I mean, we've got some folks who are in those 3 range, that 3 and 4 range, and they're like, I've got a rough sketch of what I want to do. I want to build more. I did actually see an 8 in the bunch and a 9 in the bunch as well.
Nice.
So we do have some people on the upper edge. So that's the beautiful part of this process. So AmeriCorps sponsors and supervisors spend a significant amount of hours on member recruitment tasks each year. That includes managing the overall member recruitment process. Leaders also often devote quality time to supporting recruitment efforts. Recruiting members is a critical activity to ensure your project is sustainable long-term. Think of this as building your VISTA member pipeline. Without a continuing stream of new members, the service can't continue. Think about it. Do you even have an idea of how many hours you focus your attention on recruitment? It may be too many hours to count, or perhaps your project is continuously working on year-round recruitment, so it's occurring all of the time. Understanding your respective role within the recruitment process makes it a better experience for both your team members and the VISTA member candidates. Let's start by looking at the sponsor's role within the recruitment planning. Each of these is important and it has its own steps, but I want you to look at it now from the perspective of needing to incorporate all of these into a larger plan. First off, it is accurate to say that sponsors have a responsibility to oversee the recruitment process and make sure what they plan happens. Certainly, VISTA member supervisors and leaders likely will be involved or tasked with various things, but is ultimately the sponsor's responsibility to make sure it all happens. And sponsors can assume some role in all the steps of the recruitment process, including planning, marketing, and promotion of positions, as well as engaging with the screening process to identify applicants to interview. Sponsors are responsible for developing and overseeing activities. Again, starting with the end in mind, during the planning process, you look at each of these activities and strategize in advance what and whom you need to make them happen. Each of these activities during the interviewing and selection steps may need their own mini plan, that is part of your overall member recruitment plan. Planning how you will interview top candidates, planning your process and timeline for nominating applicants for the approval of by AmeriCorps in eGrants. After AmeriCorps approves selections, sponsors are planning what goes into the communication that notifies applicants of their selection. And finally, sponsors are planning to make sure they are the ones accepting applicants in eGrants. It's important to know what roles are specific to sponsors regarding planning and executing member recruitment. So let's turn now to the VISTA leaders. We've reviewed what the sponsors are doing, but the leaders, they're actually engaging in the process. How are they engaging in the process so that they make sure that it's a great experience? First thing we're looking at is providing support to people like the program manager and sites, especially if they have multiple sites and multiple applicants. This support is integral as sponsors and leaders strategize how the member recruitment process will occur. Leaders also are instrumental in planning ways to bring relationships and assist with a smooth transition when a VISTA member leaves and a new VISTA member begins. Leaders can be particularly strong in brainstorming and documenting plans for marketing positions. They're going to be communicating with prospects and applicants and keeping candidates engaged. In order to be a VISTA leader, individuals must have either served as an AmeriCorps member or be a returned Peace Corps volunteer. So, having served before, they bring a level of credibility when speaking with potential recruits because of these additional experiences and the knowledge they have from their prior experience. It not only helps them work with the potential members to make sure that they understand what it means to serve, but it also positions them for success. People who have served can convey an understanding of the AmeriCorps program, its goals, and its impacts. Leaders have a sense of what to plan for and how to plan ahead, while they also know what it takes to serve and can use this knowledge to guide sponsors in designing their overall recruitment strategy and conversations. Finally, leaders can speak from experience about the personal and professional benefits of serving in AmeriCorps. That includes the educational award, work experience, and networking opportunities they received. Again, sponsors should factor this in while they're developing their framework for the recruitment process and utilize what the leader brings to enhance the work. Sometimes it's helpful to have a clear sense of tasks leaders can and may not do during member recruitment. Regarding planning for member recruitment, leaders can promote the open positions, assist in screening applications, or participate in interviews and provide input to the supervisor. Specific responsibilities vary. Most leaders are involved in supporting or expanding a new or existing program. Leaders help recruit, screen, and train members. They coordinate members and develop reporting and project management systems. Leaders promote information sharing. They create a member support network. They develop in-service training workshops. They conduct site visits and create model programs. In general, they set an example of leadership for members. They ensure positive relations and they facilitate idea sharing. And sometimes they mediate issues with the community, the project supervisors, and the members. On the opposite side, Vista leaders do not manage the overall recruitment process. They also do not post opportunity listings and e-grants. They don't make the final decision or submit the selection to AmeriCorps. And finally, leaders can't notify applicants that they have been selected or not selected to serve. No matter where you are in the planning process, there are likely opportunities to incorporate information that will make your recruitment plan more relevant and responsive to current conditions and make better use of available resources. You can do this while you create and adopt your member recruitment plan and make a mini plan for each of these steps. For example, sponsors and leaders will want to consider making a mini marketing plan to promote the positions, which is part of the overall recruitment plan. We heard from one sponsor who shared sponsors may be considering if they should tweak their process or if it's better to do a complete overhaul. That was a direct quote. Admittedly, an overhaul sounds daunting and time consuming, but sometimes it may be necessary for more effective recruitment. It is a truth telling moment, a time for hard questions. Is what we are doing working? This same sponsor noted that their site revamped the entire recruitment process, and it is paying off in the number of applications as well as current member involvement. Sometimes we need an overhaul. I'm sharing a quote from an author, journalist, and educator, Jane Howard. She said, call it a network, call it a tribe, call it a family, whatever you call it, whoever you are, you need one. AmeriCorps Vista members are an incredibly important asset. We rely on, partner with, and engage meaningfully with members in order to achieve mutually beneficial outcomes. Earlier, we mentioned beginning with the end in mind. So to get us to the end, we need to start. We need to start with a balanced and strategic approach to member engagement. Members play an essential role at host sites because they're offering their time, their skills, and expertise to support the organization's activities and goals. Sometimes tweaking or revamping your existing recruitment plan may create a more effective recruitment output. Successfully adapting your recruitment plan affords you the flexibility to adjust each area or mini plan of your recruitment plan to better match your overall recruitment strategy. About 2,500 years ago, Chinese military strategist Sun Tao wrote The Art of War. In it, he said, strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. Tactics and strategy are not at odds with one another. They're on the same team. Strategy defines your long-term goals and how you're planning to achieve them. A solid strategy reflects the core values of the organization. In other words, your strategy gives you the path you need towards achieving your organization's mission. Tactics are much more concrete and are often oriented towards smaller steps and a shorter time frame. They involve best practices, specific plans, resources, etc. I haven't mentioned this yet, but I actually am a supervisor for AmeriCorps Vista programs. And I was thinking of my own sponsor, NeighborWorks America. They have a heavy emphasis on developing community leadership. They serve as a national trainer on all things housing. So as part of their recruitment, they emphasize that Vista candidates who join their program will have access to their online training, which is charged a fee for everybody else, but is free for AmeriCorps Vista members. They can earn certifications. Their sites are expected to cover their Vista member travel to the National Training Institutes, where special events and training will be held for the members. Framing my recruitment process around this value keeps my local program in line with the overall network's mission and values. It guides how we go about our process. Without a concrete strategy in place, it becomes difficult to check in on your recruitment efforts and improve your tactics over time. The lack of a coherent strategy tends to breed disorganization when you try to have come and see events. It also frustrates potential applicants and often results and lower engagement in the process. Planning is the first of the 6 steps in member recruitment, and that's where we'll focus our time today. Let's take a look at the 5 crucial tasks to keep in mind when you are planning your member recruitment. Remember to kickstart your recruitment plan by planning with the end in mind. Begin your plan by setting goals. Your organization's project goals should be clearly reflected in your VISTA assignment description, or your VAD. Creating a well-written VAD is a critical step and part of the successful recruitment process. Clarify your program's short-term and long-term goals and the positions needed for a successful year of service. That clarification comes in the words you use. For example, don't use the words quote unquote help and assist in your VADs, because those words imply internship level or non-autonomous responsibilities. You want your VISTA to be a leader in your organization, so communicate the role as a leadership opportunity. After you've set your goals, you'll want to understand the tasks sponsors need to complete to achieve your goal. For example, in the planning phase, tasks may include identifying your available VISTA positions, working with your AmeriCorps portfolio manager to identify appropriate start dates, developing a clear VAD, creating a service opportunity listing in eGrants or My AmeriCorps, understanding requirements of My AmeriCorps recruitment tracking, and creating an internal tracking system. Once you've identified your recruitment tasks, you'll define roles and responsibilities to ensure that each person involved in the recruitment plan understands their roles and work towards the same goal. Creating a proactive recruitment calendar will help you organize your recruitment plan. It's also important to understand how the VISTA enrollment cycle impacts the timing of your recruitment tasks. We'll discuss how to create a calendar later in this webinar. Creating and managing tracking systems within your recruitment plan helps you stay organized and up to date on your applicant status and the state of your recruitment activities. You will use My AmeriCorps and eGrants to support your recruitment plan throughout the recruitment and selection process. You will also need to create your own internal tracking system.
And that level of specificity around roles is so important as we develop, strengthen, and modify member recruitment plans. And it seems like a lot of people are in the stage of strengthening and modifying their plans. But to get your perspective, you'll see a poll appear on your screen in just a moment. And the question that we're asking you is, which of these 5 planning tasks have you done pertaining to planning for member recruitment? And as the poll appears, you can select, have you set overarching or incremental goals or targets? Have you identified specific tasks and actions? Have you clearly defined roles for the people that are involved in your recruitment plan? Maybe you've created a calendar of dates and activities to keep you on schedule. Or perhaps, as Kathy just mentioned, maybe you've created a tracking system to document your steps and where you and applicants are in the process. So we'll give you just a moment to answer the quick poll on the screen. And you can only select one. We know there may be multiple tasks that you've done or multiple things you've done, but we'll give you a moment to respond, and then we'll take a look at the results. Okay, we'll give you just a couple more seconds. I see a lot of responses coming in, some comments in the chat. Some people do all 5, which is wonderful. Maybe 3 more seconds and then we'll close the poll. So just a moment to submit your last responses. And we will go ahead and close the poll. And just taking a very brief look at the results, over 35% of respondents, the highest planning task they've done is created a tracking system, followed next by 26% have set goals, 17% have identified specific tasks and actions, 13% have defined roles, which as we know is really critical, as are all these activities. And the 9% have created a calendar, but I see several people have typed in the chat that they want to learn how to create a calendar, which we'll be talking about in just a minute. So thank you so much for sharing what aspects of planning that you've already started or completed, especially as you continue your focus on developing and implementing a full, comprehensive member recruitment plan. In continuing to explore different elements, looking at what planning tasks you have already done may help you to think about how you've achieved elements and what successes you've had in recruitment. And we really want to capture some of your stories and comments, so we're actually going to switch over to using a virtual whiteboard called Mural. I'll briefly review the steps for getting into the site. First, you'll see a link in the chat, and you'll simply click on that link to access the collaborative whiteboard. After you select the link, you'll be presented with a welcome window, and you can click what says View as Visitor. Then on the next screen, you can enter your name or select the View as a Visitor option. Once you're actually in the mural, look for the menu on the left side of the screen. And although Mural gives you lots of icons, we're going to use just one, the sticky note. That's an easy one to use, and it's the second one from the top. To add an idea to the board, all you have to do is double click in the white background, not in the blue area where the question is. Double click in the white background, and you can also zoom out on your own screen so you can see more of the white background. So you'll double click, and then you'll select the sticky note icon, and then you can type your idea in the block that appears. Of course, if you want to change the color or format your sticky note, you can. And if the board does look crowded, you can scroll to the side or up and down for more space. Seeing some responses coming in, so we'll play some music, but again, double click in the white space. So you'll have an opportunity to actually input your sticky note and then click in the sticky note to type your response. And as you're doing this, we'll be sharing our screen, so we'll all be able to see the responses as well. Well, it looks like we have a lot of responses, which is wonderful. I'm just going to read a few, and then Kathy, I'd like your input as well, but I'm seeing some great responses in terms of success stories, specifically meeting with college recruitment coordinators to help them plan and strategize how to recruit and how to find their target audience. I see some people are using the typical platforms of Indeed, LinkedIn, other online sites and web forms. The more developed our plan and the better we stick to it, the better our results. Absolutely, that is the whole purpose of this webinar, building, creating, implementing a plan and sticking to it to really expand and strengthen your results. And then promoting positions at community events, and I see lots of networking. So Kathy, what other themes? I know networking is a huge theme I'm seeing across the mural right now. What other themes or ideas are sticking out to you?
Really engaging some of the different community members and the network partners that they have to work with. Making sure that they're actually doing that outreach at community events. So getting invited to those. I'm also noticing they talk about having a meta ad. So they're actually putting the advertising on social media and making
Hmm.
sure that they have that option as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, these are amazing success stories, and we encourage you to keep adding them so that we can see them, but more importantly, so that you can see them and learn how you can perhaps build off these success stories and make your recruitment plan even more of a success story. And I'm hoping that you're taking notes on how you can expand your success and, as you're doing now, collaborating with others. So thank you for participating, and certainly remember to connect with others on the mural, and later we'll be talking about the Vista campus to learn more about their achievements and how you can be much more effective in using your member recruitment plan.
Let's now look at elements of a good recruitment plan. They include, but may not be limited to, outlining the steps in your marketing, screening, interviewing, and selection process. Know what you want and what you don't want. Developing your recruitment task lists. Be specific with details for small and large tasks. Drafting your recruitment timeline. Remember, start at the end and work backwards, perhaps giving yourself a little leeway as needed. Setting up tracking systems. Put them in your calendar and set alarms. Make sure that you and any others working on recruitment know how they work. Identifying staff and their roles. Whether you do it or someone else does it, be clear about what has to be done. Think outside the box as to who can help with this work if you're a one-person operation. Also, preparing for the interview. Develop or adapt supplemental questionnaires. Consider the critical interview questions you need and want, and update Vista project information that you will share with the applicants. First, use the Creating a Recruitment worksheet on vistacampus.gov to outline major next steps that are needed to get your recruitment plan off the ground. Second, you can use the Vista recruitment checklist for a list of sample tasks that need to be done for each phase. Both documents are in Word format, so you can customize them to your program. Now we will move on and look at the elements of a solid recruitment plan. Each of these elements are essential as you consider how you recruit, as well as how to document your process to make recruitment a little easier the next time around. A critical factor in recruitment planning is timing. A resource that's available to you on Vista Campus is the Vista Campus Recruitment Calendar. The calendar was developed years ago by Vista leaders and recently was updated by Vista staff in order to keep it relevant. Based on your communications with your AmeriCorps regional office on when you can bring on new Vista members, you'll enter the date of your members' expected Vista member orientation in the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet automatically will calculate the recommended milestones while allowing you to track key recruitment deadlines. It is recommended you create your calendar 120 days before Vista member orientation, which is also the member's first day of reporting to their service site. You can adopt this particular spreadsheet as needed. This is especially helpful if you know that your project has additional recruitment steps not identified in the spreadsheet. You can also adapt a spreadsheet to include holidays and leave time for vacation. This would help create a more realistic schedule of possible adjustments that may be needed during the process.
The inclusion of specific examples really helps you better outline and fine-tune your recruitment plan. For example, it's a great strategy to set up a detailed tracking system, as has been mentioned, to capture applicants, where they are in the recruitment process, and the overall recruitment planning tasks. So let's hear your ideas now. Using the chat panel, the question we want you to answer is, what other systems, processes, or tools do you use to plan your recruitment? We've seen some mentioned earlier, but any tools or systems that you use that can help other sponsors and leaders in the webinar, go ahead and type those in the chat and we'll read off a few in just a moment. So thank you so much for these responses. I'm seeing a lot of people mentioning uh, using some of the Google suite of products, whether it's Excel or Word or other systems to keep track of things and give different people access so that it's a shared resource. Several mentions of Handshake, one mention of a Gantt chart, which I haven't used in a long time, but I know that those can be extremely useful, especially if you know how to use them effectively. And a lot of individual responses around specific things they're doing. Kathy, what do you make of these responses? What does this mean to you in your work?
Well, what it tells me is that people are already thinking ahead about how do I share this and then bring others in. I mean, especially when you see so often that Google Sheet has come up again and again. I think it's great that they're stepping into things like MailChimp or other email marketing tools that allow them to start to automate and make this a little bit easier in some of the work that they're doing. They're using Salesforce. They're actually thinking about like how am I collecting data so that I have some organization to what we're doing. I mean, it's really exciting. I just really appreciate the how specific some of these comments are. I invite you to keep adding your ideas in the chat. Your comments may help someone else or be the beginning of a partnership you form with another sponsor. And that's the opportunity that we have here is to really network with one another and build up this particular work. You all just set it up perfectly. It talks about next about involving others in a recruitment plan. Now that we've discussed how to plan for it, let's look a little more closely on how we can actually involve others in our planning process. We'd like you to start thinking about your network. Who is in your network? The web of people whom you have connected with, throughout your life, your family, your colleagues, friends of friends, those people that you once went to school with, or people that you've met online. Just like you, each of these people have their own set of unique strengths, skills, experiences, and perspectives. Think of all that could be achieved if you were able to harness just a fraction of the potential found in a web of connections like this. Networks can help in many ways with your recruitment planning, and it can actually help you fine tune your plan. And sometimes you can discover other opportunities presented through networking. I'm going to give you an example. A person at a local technical college contacted me for an informational networking call. She explained that she heard I was new, and each month she already announced that she tries to reach out to one or two agencies that she's heard about but hasn't met yet. She said, would it be okay to take 15 to 20 minutes of your time to ask you about your programs and share a little bit about my agency? If not now, could we set up a time? Let me just take a brief intermission and just acknowledge that so far, the conversation focused mostly on the who. You'll see that as we continue, how this conversation moves to focus on the what, the strengths, the skills, the experiences, the perspectives that are in your network. Okay, let's get back to the example. The person at the local technical college and I ended up talking for the next hour. We recognized multiple areas of overlap. For example, we at NHS have opportunities for skill building and volunteer assignments, and their clientele are working on job training opportunities. This for them was a natural fit. They are providing referrals to us for Vista member candidates and making sure that they have open job applicants with an option for continuous skill building. It just became a natural coming together for us. And we also are collaborating on job site training as we work, because we're working on construction of new single family homes. They actually want to build on and expand their construction training program. So they're like, really? Could we possibly work with you on that? Absolutely. A great partnership has blossomed because of that phone call. It has expanded and enhanced our network, and it still does. But there's still a new thing that we think of that we actually call and share ideas about. As you think about your network, you want to think about who may not yet be in your network, but could or should be. This is all part of the recruitment planning process. Make an intentional effort to develop connections with potential applicants and grow those connections over time. Let that foundation carry members through their year of service and carry you through the process of recruiting future members, because now you have someone else who can assist with the recruiting planning. These relationships and connections go from initially meeting someone, whether it's in person, online, over the phone, to mutual interests, which includes exchange and collaboration. It might eventually lead to increased communication frequency, which only strengthens your understanding, knowledge, and trust, all the way to shared experience and commitment in the relationship. When you build a plan for cultivating lasting relationships into your membership recruitment plan, you are taking an active step to grow your base of people who can help you with future planning, marketing, interviewing, and more. So let's take a look at this. Does this continuum of connection align with what you do as a sponsor or leader? And how can you be more intentional about incorporating these ideas into your plan for recruiting members?
And speaking of building relationships that really last, when you registered for this webinar, one of the 2 questions we asked you was, who is currently involved in your recruitment planning process? A quick look at recently revealed results shows that the answers fit into these 7 top categories. The majority of respondents said that they involve staff, which includes organization staff and Vista project staff. This also may include the Vista project director, staff from human resources, or others that were mentioned. About half of the respondents involve community members and partners. Some incorporate professors at local colleges or community volunteer mentors. And then about 20% of the respondents noted that in their recruitment planning, they include the Vista member supervisors in recruitment, since those, of course, are the people that would be directly supervising the next Vista members. Again, about another 20% of respondents indicated that they have current Vista members be part of the process, especially since they're the ones serving in those positions and will be transitioning out of those positions to someone else. And then a few respondents indicated that they involved their board of directors, which of course is a great way to connect them to the Vista project and also utilize their possible varied experiences. Some respondents involved their Vista leader, which of course is a great idea in planning for member recruitment. And then a fewer number of respondents permit anyone and everyone to be part of the process. And I will just say that there are significant pros and cons to inviting anyone and everyone to be part of the process, because sometimes there's too many cooks in the kitchen, but you want to be selective and find the right people to help you plan. The remaining responses were not as popular as the ones stated above. And remember that this data is only from an initial portion of the registrants for this webinar, but it does give you an idea of who people often involve in all or part of their member recruitment planning process. And it may help you think about who else you may want to consider being involved in your process.
That's great information, Eric. Thank you. Take a little bit closer look at networking. One way to go about making connections is to try to use your existing networks to reach people you're already connected to so that they can contribute to your recruitment plan. Another is to extend your reach to new people and networks that can benefit recruitment. Consider school networks and alumni associations, job networks made up of organizations and people you've worked with, as well as professional groups or associations you belong to. Consider networks of service-minded people from your prior AmeriCorps or Peace Corps service, or from places where you volunteered, as well as national service alumni networks such as AmeriCorps alums. Connect with other local AmeriCorps projects in your area to share best practices, applicants, and support one another in developing interview questions. Consider personal networks of friends, family members, and contacts who have shared interests in your personal realm. An important group to network with are those affiliated with your organization, including board members and volunteers and community partners. Finally, consider whether you have networks of populations being served by your project or by other community organizations. We recommend you take time during your recruitment planning to identify your potential needs, because this can provide clues about what you'll need down the line. For example, if you determine during your initial planning that there's an audience you will need to reach through your recruitment efforts, but you don't currently have any context in place for that audience, Identifying those things during the planning stage provides the time to find and build a connection so you can reach that audience when you get to the marketing stage for all the outreach that you need to do. Now, here's a key point when it comes to networking opportunities. Networking should be beneficial for you and the other party. It's an opportunity for both parties to develop professional relationships and work together. The best way to achieve results with networking is to consider how you, your agency, or your mission can benefit others, and verify that your message is received during your interaction. Another point, your goal in networking should be to put your mission first and your organization second. Now, what I mean by this is that we need to stay open-minded to new opportunities because that will strengthen your mission. Here's an example of one way to leverage a specific network. Let's say in your recruitment plan, you identify that you need to share information with a local community organization to provide them with knowledge of AmeriCorps, the VISTA program, and the mission and impact of your VISTA program. You have some initial ideas of what you want from them, but you remain open to other possibilities that can help you plan and implement your recruitment plan. So you contact the local organization and schedule an initial meeting with them. You work with other program staff to prepare a presentation about why your VISTA program is integral to the organization, and you tailor your speech to include what is in it for that organization. This piece is important. We'll touch more specifically on tailoring your recruitment messaging in next month's webinar, but you want to show the organization why this partnership would help and be of interest to them. You may even want to bring along a VISTA member and a community member, someone being impacted by the VISTA program, to add in their story. Then you articulate as specifically as possible what your ask is of them. Do you want them to simply spread the word about your open member positions? Do you want them to review and provide feedback on your marketing message? Or is there something else? Your partnership must be a part of your member recruitment plan because they can be such a useful and impactful resource. I'd also just invite you to consider keeping a log. That way you can document who all you've reached out to, and when working with multiple people regarding, who and when you've reached out to people so that you can really think through your recruitment planning process. Document what you have asked them to help with, what their responses were, and any other follow-up communications or agreements. Being organized is not just about you and the work you're doing, but it also helps others who are assisting you and anyone who may take your place when you leave.
I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, Kathy. You mentioned the word network, specifically in terms of human and other resources. And since we know recruitment is such a critical task and we're all very busy, making and adapting a plan for member recruitment should include a plan for developing, utilizing, and sustaining partnerships. So as you think about working with others and collaboratively planning to get members, we're asking you to respond in the chat. What partnerships have you already tapped into for your recruitment efforts? And feel free to add in how successful they were and how they worked. Again, the more specific you can be, the better. But again, what partnerships or collaborations or connections have you already tapped into, have you built, have you sustained to improve your recruitment planning efforts? We'll give you about 30 seconds to respond, and then we'll continue. Seeing quite a few comments around community members, community partners, which I think is local organizations that maybe they already have connections with or partnerships with. Some are connecting with their Vista sites. For example, if you're an intermediary Vista project and you're forming partnerships and connections with all of your sites and all those that are connected to your sites. And I also saw a mention of local government, community boards, nonprofit organizations, boards of directors. Kathy, any thoughts that come to mind?
Oh, I love the mixture that we have here of lots of community government. And it's what you're going to need to really build that bigger partnership and network system that you need, that ecosystem that you need to really help make this successful. I think the other one that I think about as I look through this list, we're part of a network. So there's various affiliate organizations within our state. One of the recommendations that came into us is, as you're doing recruitment, be sure to reach out to some of the other affiliates because they may have filled all their spots and they may still have great candidates. Don't miss the opportunity to actually tap into some of that. Folks, I just want to thank you for participating and sharing information based on your experience. Part of the planning process involves determining what partnerships you want to form, why you want to form them, and how you'll make use of them.
Absolutely. And we do have one more question for you to help see how well you've been following along. You'll see a poll open up in a pop-up window. And again, this is a select one, so you can only select one. But the question we're asking you is, which element is included in the recruitment planning process? You can select A, B, C, or D. We'll give you a minute or so to respond, and don't forget to click submit. Thank you. Okay, well, in case you're finishing submitting your response, we'll give you a few more seconds. Again, as a reminder, you can only select one response, A, B, C, or D, to the question, which element is included in the recruitment planning process? Give about 5 more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and close the poll and go over a few more pieces of information. 3, 2, 1, and we'll close the poll. And we'll go ahead and reveal the best answer so you know what the correct answer is. The correct answer to this question is B, identifying staff and their roles in the recruitment process. The other options are things that you may do while recruiting, but in terms of specifically the recruitment planning process, you need to include in your plan how you will identify staff and outline their specific member recruitment roles so that they can then help you accomplish the other items. Thank you very much for participating.
I'd just like to take a moment to talk a little bit more about some other resources we have. These are the tools that we recommend for your review. The first one, you see it's NRC RIM. That's the Community Engagement Toolkit from the University of Minnesota's National Resource Center for Refugees, Immigrants, and Migrants. And they have helpful information about collaborating and partnering with local support and community-based organizations. Next, we have 40 examples of nonprofit calls to action that drive engagement. It's from a website called Firespring. These examples are quick and to the point calls to action that you can replicate in your own messaging. Our last resource is from Recruit Military with tips and strategies for the best way to hire veterans. Veterans are another market you can potentially tap into when recruiting Vista members.
Thank you for that, Kathy. We definitely encourage you to check those out, as well as what we'll be talking about right now is the Vista Campus. So specifically looking at recruitment messaging, we ask you to log into the Vista Campus, click on the catalog link at the top, and go to the Vista Member Recruitment Learning Path, where you'll be able to access the new e-learning course that Kathy mentioned earlier. This is actually a new one, Dynamic Messaging for Vista Recruitment. Because you want to attract the right applicants for your Vista project and how potential applicants respond to your messaging, this self-directed online course will give you more knowledge on how you can create specific messaging to market your positions. And in addition to exploring the online e-learning course we just mentioned, we also encourage you to sign up for our next live webinar for sponsors and leaders. It's specifically focused on tailoring and customizing member recruitment messages to your target audience. And we'll offer some examples and solicit ideas from participants as well. It's a nice complement to the e-learning course, and it'll take place on Tuesday, March 19th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We hope to see you there. Your input is truly, truly valuable to us. So we appreciate you thinking about this webinar and accessing the SurveyMonkey link in the chat and giving us your feedback. It only takes a few minutes to respond, and we appreciate all the feedback and insight that you give us based on today's webinar. So thank you very much in advance. So we have time for 1 or 2 questions. I haven't seen any questions coming in the chat, so I'll pause for a moment to see if there are any come in. Kathy, I know one question that sometimes comes up is there a general answer to how do you plan for recruitment when you're already in the middle of a busy recruitment season? I know many sponsors and leaders have talked about it's so busy right now, it's hard to plan. Any insight you have into how do you plan when you're already in the middle of it? Kathy, are you still there?
There I am. Sorry about that. One of the things that I would make sure I put in there is, if we at all possible, try to finish our planning before we get started. But if we're already there, now's a great time, if we want to pay attention to our tracking and our goals, to say, are we hitting what we intended to do? If we're not, that might be the time to just do a quick check to say, is there any adjustment we could make midstream that's going to help us create the impact we do want? Sometimes we have to do that continuous quality improvement to say, is there something I have to change right now that makes a difference to how we can go forward?
And I would just simply add, even when it seems like there's no time to plan, we have to make the time, because as someone said earlier in the mural, planning leads to success and success leads to great things. So thank you very much for attending today's webinar. This concludes our webinar. Thank you to our webinar support team, our webinar designers, and thank you for participating in today's webinar. We look forward to seeing you next month on our next sponsor and leader webinar. This concludes today's webinar. Have a great day.